The story began on the continent of Shenwu, within the Saint Yuan Demon Sect, deep in the night beneath a moon-stained crimson red. Inside a chamber filled with chain decorations and hanging skulls, candles emitted a dark violet glow. The protagonist lay on the bed, his hands bound. He kept begging the woman he called senior sister to release him. However, the fox woman straddling him did not allow him to escape. She smiled and laughed with excitement, calling him her husband and saying that today was the very day of their wedding. Did he really have the heart to abandon his concubine and leave her alone in an empty room? Between her breasts, the woman took something out, as if deliberately seducing him. The protagonist's name was Zhao Mu. And although it sounded ridiculous, he was truly a transmigrator. The woman before him, indulging her twisted desires by playing different roles, was certainly not his real wife. It had been a year since he transmigrated into the body of a noble young master of this continent, and he even had a marriage contract with a princess of a dynasty. Just as he was about to reach the peak of life, he was suddenly kidnapped by a group of demons from the Saint Yuan Demon Sect. He never imagined that captivity was only the beginning, and that the true nightmare had yet to come. His pure yang constitution was exposed, the finest supplement for cultivating the 9-yin mystic art. The fox woman was overjoyed. As she gazed at the golden energy enveloping Zhao Mu's body, covered with marks of kisses, Zhao Mu realized that no one cared whether a servant disciple lived or died. He had become nothing more than a tool to increase their cultivation. Although he was filled with pure yang energy, he was already on the brink of death. His blood was being drained in that situation. As the fox woman caressed him, he desperately shouted that he did not want to die yet. But she strangled him and, while pulling something from between her breasts, cheerfully told him that dying in her hands was something he should be proud of. The woman opened what she had taken out and said it was a solidifying yang pill. She explained that it could firmly stabilize its effects and stimulate his yang constitution. She immediately poured the pill into his mouth, happily saying that her husband was about to break through in the 9-yin mystic art, so he should not be stingy with a little yang constitution energy. The protagonist had no choice and was forcibly made to swallow the pill. The woman even said that if he could help her break through to the second stage, he should consider it a meaningful death. The pill's effects contorted his face as he repeatedly begged her to let him go, until he finally fell silent and could no longer move. At the same time, the woman lay against his chest, telling him to do his best. In Zhao Mu's mind, before he had even properly seen the world, he wondered whether he would truly be drained to death by the hands of a monster like this. He clenched his fists until they bled, thinking that he would never accept such a fate. He would not give up. Suddenly, a notification appeared stating that an extremely strong desire to live had been detected. The return system had successfully awakened. The system requested the host to bind the system sphere. Zhao Mu was startled and realized that an entire year had passed. He raised his hand, surrounded by golden energy, toward a glowing blue sphere. A message immediately appeared. This system aimed to ensure that every act of giving would receive a return. Anything given by the host could trigger a reward of up to 10,000 times. Zhao Mu smiled confidently and crushed the glowing blue sphere in his hand, saying that the chance to reverse his fate had finally arrived. The binding was successful. A notification appeared stating that the host had received the system late, so compensation was granted. The first return was guaranteed to be 10,000 times. The fox woman was delighted, telling Zhao Mu that while his mouth resisted, his body was honest. Zhao Mu smiled bitterly and cursed inwardly. To survive in the sect as a servant disciple, he set aside his dignity. He removed the collar from his neck and boldly told the fox woman that he would satisfy her right now. The fox woman was shocked. When Zhao Mu stood up and grabbed her shoulders, he took the dominant position. One question lingered in his mind: why these people refused to let him go. In a seductive tone, the fox woman told him not to hold back. He immediately moved and kissed her neck, thinking that since heaven had given him this opportunity, he would take control of his own fate. The fox said that tonight, This place belonged only to the two of them. The next day, the sun was already high. The protagonist still lay there, nearly skin and bones. The fox woman stood beside him, stretching lazily, her tail wagging happily. She said that although he had given only a small amount of Yang power, his performance last night was not bad. She transformed into a human and said it was a pity about the solidifying Yang pills. If he survived, she would look for him again for even more enjoyable games. Exhausted and weak, the protagonist could not even speak and could only force a bitter smile. Suddenly, a red notification appeared. His pure Yang power had been completely drained by the 9-charm Heavenly Fox, triggering the 10,000-fold return. He received a reward. The red Yang sacred body, and empowerment began. He screamed in pain as violent energy surged through him. When the red Yang sacred body fully activated, golden symbols flowed across his entire body. Another notification appeared, stating that he had broken through to the 3rd level of Qi refining, followed by the 4th, all the way to the 10th level, the Great Circle. As golden energy and markings surrounded his body, he wondered if this was the power of a sacred body. But he also realized that this was not the time to show off. The golden energy gradually faded as he adjusted his hair. He realized that the Saint Yuan Demon Sect was filled with powerful experts. If his secret were exposed, his fate would be even more tragic. He needed to take advantage of the time when no one was paying attention to accumulate strength. After putting on his clothes, he stepped outside and pondered. Spirit stones were the foundation of cultivation. With his current red Yang sacred body, he could earn money through private dealings, but he dismissed the idea. He was now a man with a system. Moreover, most people were not wealthy. 3 or 4 spirit stones were already considered decent. He wondered if there was another way to quickly earn spirit stones. While walking, he suddenly stopped and turned his head. He saw Wang Chan, an outsider disciple of the Heihuan sect, cultivating. Wang Chan was drenched in sweat, emitting blue energy. Zhao Mu remembered the help Wang Chan had given him when he first entered the sect. It was time to repay that kindness. He took out the 200 spirit stones he had saved and threw them at Wang Chan's head. Wang Chan was shocked, picked up the stones, and assumed that a powerful figure in the sect had helped him. A notification appeared. He had given 200 spirit stones and triggered a 500-fold return. He received 100,000 spirit stones. He was ecstatic as spirit stones rained down, saying that making money this way was easy. But to him, 100,000 spirit stones were still insignificant. If he could trigger a 10,000-fold return, it would amount to 2 million spirit stones. In the future, everyone who oppressed and humiliated him would be made to repay him 10,000 times, or even 1,000,000 times. He tried again, throwing all the spirit stones given by the system. Wang Chan almost screamed in shock, asking what was happening. Scratching his head, he wondered why spirit stones were raining from the sky. Had he, Wang Chan, encountered a great benefactor? He happily said that the senior who gave him these stones could rest assured, he would double his efforts in cultivation and never disappoint them. The protagonist realized that the system showed no reaction. He was disappointed. As expected, the system could not be abused. Suddenly, someone called his name, startling him. A woman holding a long sword appeared before him, asking whether he was still not dead. Zhao Mu's gaze sharpened instantly. He immediately recognized the woman. It was Lu Qi. Zhao Mu bowed respectfully and greeted senior sister Lu Qi, his movements proper and his voice filled with deference. He quietly observed Lu Qi's serious and cold demeanor. She was a female cultivator, an outer disciple of the Saint Yuan Demon Sect, and a practitioner of the 9 Yin mystic art. When Zhao Mu had first entered the sect, Lu Qi had taken meticulous care of him, almost like a true elder sister. However, after Chu Zhaoran's warning, her attitude toward him changed abruptly. She distanced herself completely, as though an invisible boundary had been drawn between them. At the same time, Lu Qi had not failed to notice the rapid rise in Zhao Mu's cultivation. As she examined him, Her conviction grew stronger. The pure yang constitution he possessed was far more powerful than she had initially believed. When she mentioned this, Zhao Mu merely smiled faintly and replied politely, saying it was nothing more than praise and that everything was due to luck. Before long, Lu Qi suddenly grabbed Zhao Mu's hand and pulled him away. With a flick of her wrist, she summoned her sword, which shot upward, wrapped in brilliant azure energy. She informed Zhao Mu that Chu Jiaoren would soon enter seclusion cultivation to attempt a breakthrough. While Chu Jiaoren was absent, Zhao Mu would temporarily assist her cultivation. The sword gradually expanded until it was large enough for two people to ride. Lu Qi carefully supported Zhao Mu, and together they stepped onto the massive blade, which swiftly soared into the sky. As they flew, Zhao Mu sat down and instinctively wrapped his arms around Lu Qi's waist, telling her to slow down a little. Lu Qi was startled by the sudden contact, and her cheeks immediately flushed red. After a moment, she remarked that it had only been a few months since they last met, yet the change in Zhao Mu's cultivation aura was astonishing. She asked whether he had gained some benefit from that flirtatious fox, Shu Sharon. There was a trace of grievance in Zhao Mu's voice as he replied that it was always Sister Shu who took advantage of him instead. How could he possibly gain any benefits under such circumstances? Lu Qi explained that demons were never truly kind. If he continued to comply with them, one day his vitality would be drained completely, and he would die. Lu Qi said that once she broke through to the core formation realm, she would challenge Chu Jiaoren. If she won, Zhao Mu would then obey her. Upon hearing this, Zhao Mu immediately hugged Lu Qi tightly around the waist and said that in that case, he would rely entirely on senior sister Lu Qi's care. Lu Qi frowned at how close he was, while Zhao Mu, in his heart, could not understand the true meaning of the words, obey her. What kind of person did they think he was? After several hours of travel, they arrived at the inner sect of the Saint Yuan Demon Sect. Entering a room, Lu Qi informed Zhao Mu that she was on the verge of breaking through to the core formation realm. If Zhao Mu could help her succeed smoothly, she would reward him with vitality pills. She instructed him to sit and wait while she went to bathe. Zhao Mu smiled upon hearing this, and a subtle plan slowly formed in his mind. Inside the bath chamber, Lu Qi gently removed her clothes and submerged herself in warm water filled with flower petals. She let out a deep breath, thinking that nothing could go wrong now and that everything would proceed smoothly. The warm water gradually relaxed her body. Suddenly, she was startled when she sensed Zhao Mu's presence behind her. Smiling, he asked what it was she had meant by saying everything would surely go well. She immediately covered herself and cried out, demanding to know why he had entered. Zhao Mu explained that time was precious and that it would be faster if they bathed together. As he slipped into the water, he pulled Lu Qi toward him and softly said that in that case, they should begin. Lu Qi was left speechless. Her cheeks flushed crimson as she quietly gazed at Zhao Mu. At that moment, they began cultivating the marvelous 9-yin mystic art. Lu Qi let out a soft moan and could not help but remark that Zhao Mu's pure yang constitution was overwhelmingly dominant. After some time, Lu Qi was nearly drained of strength. Panting, she leaned back weakly, her cheeks still red. Zhao Mu remarked that he had not expected senior sister Lu Qi to cultivate the 9-yin mystic art, but she immediately cut him off, saying he already knew enough and should not mention it aloud again. Zhao Mu promptly agreed. With sorrow in her voice, Lu Qi said that she would be getting married the following month. The name of her future husband was Long Tianxiang, someone Zhao Mu should already know. Zhao Mu was utterly shocked by the name. Rage surged within him, for he knew that Long Tianxiang had broken through to the nascent soul realm before the age of 30 and was recognized as a supreme genius unseen in the Saint Yuan Demon Sect for 1,000 years. Moreover, he had comprehended sword intent and was a powerful expert ranked among heaven's pride. Zhao Mu clutched his head and said that if Long Tianxiang were to find out about what had happened, wouldn't that be equivalent to putting a green hat on such a formidable figure? He stopped mid-sentence when Lu Qi suddenly approached him. Gently stroking his chest, she told Zhao Mu to rest assured. When Long Tianxiang cultivated an ancient sword manual, his meridians had been damaged, and his body had become abnormal. As long as she said nothing, no outsider would ever discover what they had done. Lu Qi added that if she truly did not like Zhao Mu, did he really think she would give him the most precious thing she possessed? Zhao Mu was deeply moved by her words and immediately kissed her with intense tenderness. When their lips parted, he said that senior sister Lu Qi was close to breaking through and that they should continue their efforts. Lu Qi responded by softly calling him a fool. The next morning, after their exertions, Lu Qi was utterly exhausted and fell into a deep sleep. Meanwhile, Zhao Mu was overjoyed when a system window suddenly appeared before him. Because his red yang power had been depleted, an 800-fold return was triggered, greatly increasing the strength of his red yang sacred body. Golden energy and runic symbols surged once more throughout his body. This was followed by a notification congratulating him on breaking through to the foundation establishment stage. He happily reflected that in such a short time, he had already surpassed the threshold of the foundation establishment realm. At this pace, even if he were to face Long Tianxiang and the Long family, he would not be afraid. He glanced lightly at Lu Qi's still sleeping, alluring body. A thought occurred to him, and he moved closer, gently waking her to ask for his reward. She handed it over immediately, praising him as truly remarkable and saying she had nearly been overwhelmed and needed more rest. Zhao Mu opened the container and saw 10 vitality pills. He cheerfully remarked that senior sister Lu Qi was indeed generous. Since he needed to give pills anyway, why search far when his target was right here? He took one vitality pill and gently placed it into the mouth of the sleeping Lu Qi. Moments later, a notification appeared stating that he had given a second-grade vitality pill, triggering a 30-fold return and granting him a third-grade vitality pill. Zhao Mu wondered why the return was only 30-fold. This was not ideal for him. Nevertheless, he smiled as he looked at the remaining 9 pills. He still had 9 chances left. Even if it did not reach 10,000-fold, a 1,000-fold return would be more than enough. He once again gave the pills to the still sleeping Lu Qi. A notification appeared, stating that he had given a second-grade vitality pill, triggering a 3,000-fold return. Zhao Mu was utterly astonished as he saw golden energy slowly emerge from Lu Qi's sleeping body. In his palm, a golden pill surrounded by green energy appeared. A smile finally spread across his face. A notification appeared, informing him that he had obtained a 7th-grade marrow cleansing pill. While Zhao Mu held the glowing pill in his hand, overwhelming joy showed on his face when he realized what it was. A marrow cleansing pill, a treasure regarded as priceless in the cultivation world. According to what he knew, this pill could stabilize the body's foundation and strengthen vitality like an origin-nurturing pill, but those were only secondary effects. Its true and most important function was to improve a cultivator's root bone aptitude, which directly determined a person's talent limit and future potential. Although Zhao Mu had been born with a pure yang constitution, something considered extraordinary among mortals, he knew it was still far from enough compared to the real geniuses within his sect. If he wanted to catch up to those at the top, he had to push his own limits even further. Driven by his intense desire to grow stronger, Zhao Mu did not hesitate. He immediately swallowed the shining pill and began the transformation. Almost at once, a powerful surge of energy flowed through his body, making his blood boil and his meridians burn. A fierce aura and blazing light burst out around him as he struggled to control and refine the wild energy inside. Sitting in his cultivation posture, fully focused, he continuously refined the medicinal power until his entire body was wrapped in blazing radiance, clearly showing how intense and profound the process was. After absorbing the pill's power, an unexpected effect appeared. His body began expelling massive amounts of filth and impurities that had been buried deep in his marrow for a long time. The foul stench immediately caught Lu Qi's attention, making her cover her nose and tell Zhao Mu to take a bath at once. Zhao Mu sniffed himself and realized the smell was truly unbearable, so he went straight to the bathroom. Testing his new strength, he used only his glowing energy to turn on the shower without touching it. Standing under the rushing water, he washed away all the dirt and grime while remaining calm and clear-minded after successfully enhancing his talent. As Lu Qi watched him, she could not hide her shock. She could not believe that in such a short time, Zhao Mu had broken through to the Foundation establishment realm. She asked whether the origin nurturing pill was really that powerful, since in her understanding, reaching that level should not result in such an extreme purification. As she touched Zhao Mu's smooth, almost flawless skin, her doubts grew stronger. The cleanliness and purity of his body went far beyond what should be possible at his current level, making her suspect that he must have taken something else as well. Zhao Mu felt uneasy inside, knowing it would be difficult to explain how he had obtained a marrow cleansing pill. To divert Lu Qi's attention, he joked that everything was simply the result of their dual cultivation. He even teased her, saying that despite all their effort together, she still had not reached core formation. His words made Lu Qi lean against the wall, her face red with embarrassment and shock, unable to respond. Zhao Mu did not stop. He moved closer and whispered that perhaps she had not tried hard enough, offering to help her again without asking for anything in return. He even asked if she no longer cared about her own life, explaining that he was only doing all this to help his senior sister break through faster. Later, after everything was over, Lu Qi lay exhausted on the bed, barely able to move. Zhao Mu had already straightened his clothes and said goodbye, reminding her not to rush her breakthrough. At that moment, a system message appeared before his eyes, confirming that he had obtained pure yang energy, triggering a 10-fold return and slightly strengthening his red yang power. As he walked down the stairs, he felt an unusual lightness throughout his body and grew even more impressed by the power of the Foundation establishment realm. Zhao Mu had long dreamed of owning a flying sword so he could freely travel through the skies and across vast seas. That night, he went to the outer sect marketplace and was fortunate enough to find a rare weapon. Holding the wooden case, the vendor repeatedly thanked him for his generosity. The sword, called Star Guarding Slayer, was forged from meteorite iron that came from beyond the world. Engraved into its body was a star vortex array capable of absorbing power from the stars to further increase the sword's sharpness and might. Even though it cost 30,000 spirit stones, Zhao Mu bought it without hesitation, thinking about the great returns he could receive by gifting it to others in the future. While he was admiring his new weapon, a huge man suddenly blocked his path, calling him, "Pretty boy," and saying he had been looking for him. This man was Niu Tai, an outer disciple who had long been obsessed with and courting senior sister Chu Jiaoran. Zhao Mu remembered that Niu Tai had tried to cause him trouble several times before, only to be stopped each time by Chu Jiaoran. Niu Tai was a Foundation establishment cultivator with an ox demon bloodline, making him far stronger than ordinary cultivators of the same realm. Instead of feeling afraid, Zhao Mu was excited, believing this was the perfect opponent to test his current strength as Niu Tai's blazing aura flared. Once they faced each other, Niu Tai could no longer contain his rage. He grabbed Zhao Mu by the collar and shouted, saying he had heard Zhao Mu had met Chu Jiaoran again, and his jealousy burned fiercely as he demanded the truth. Despite the threat, Zhao Mu remained calm. He firmly grasped Niu Tai's hand and, with a teasing look, asked what it would matter if it were true. That only made Niu Tai angrier. Veins bulged on his arms as powerful energy shook the surroundings, and with a furious roar, he charged forward, telling Zhao Mu to die. Yet Zhao Mu calmly caught Niu Tai's punch with just one hand, shocking his opponent with how effortless it looked. Smiling, Zhao Mu said he still wanted to live because he wanted to stay with and play with senior sister Chu. Niu Tai could not believe Zhao Mu had also reached the Foundation establishment realm, but he forced himself to remain confident, saying Zhao Mu should not think they were equals just because of a breakthrough. His aura flared even more as he unleashed a storm of fast punches that surrounded Zhao Mu, but Zhao Mu easily dodged them all, even mocking that although Niu Tai's punches were strong, they were far too slow. In his heart, Zhao Mu realized how extraordinary his red yang sacred body truly was. Even just after his breakthrough, he could already match someone like Niu Tai, who ranked among the top 100 of the outer sect. Finally, as Niu Tai's attacks continued to fail, Zhao Mu coldly said this comedy should end. In the next instant, he launched a powerful punch wrapped in blazing flames. Niu Tai could not dodge it in time. Blood sprayed from his mouth as intense pain twisted his face, and the so-called boss Niu collapsed to the ground, eyes wide open as he lost consciousness. His horned followers stood frozen in disbelief, unable to understand how someone as young as Zhao Mu had suddenly become so powerful. One of them still tried to threaten Zhao Mu, asking if he knew the status of the Niu family within the sect after what he had done to their leader. Zhao Mu calmly replied that he had only given him a reminder. Raising his hand, he summoned a flying sword wrapped in blue light and flicked it into the wall beside the man's head, making him tremble in fear. Zhao Mu coldly explained that the sword was worth 30,000 spirit stones, more than enough to cover Boss Niu's medical expenses. At the same time, a blue system screen appeared, announcing that by giving away a second-grade flying sword, he had triggered a 1000-fold return, producing a 5th-grade flying sword called Heavenly Star Hunter. Zhao Mu glanced at it with mild impatience, saying it was rather ordinary, before turning and walking away, leaving the group stunned and speechless in the middle of the road. As he walked off, two of Boss Niu's followers suddenly attacked from behind, flying through the air with their weapons glowing purple. Before they could reach him, a terrifying aura erupted from Zhao Mu. His long hair stood on end, his eyes glowing red, as he warned them not to blame him if he showed no mercy. In a flash, a terrifying blue streak cut through the air so fast it could not even be seen. The next moment, weapons clattered to the ground, followed by screams of pain as the two attackers collapsed, clutching their wounded arms and shoulders, crying out in confusion about who had struck them. In the tense silence, a woman spoke up, her hand glowing red as she boldly asked why they still dared to complain when they were the ones who had started the trouble. The beautiful woman, Mu Juling, walked forward with her long weapon in hand and firmly said she had personally seen them attempt a sneak attack first. As Mu Juling slowly approached, Zhao Mu scratched her head. When she reached him, she suddenly scolded him, angrily shouting while pointing a finger at his face, blaming him for being careless and reckless in his decisions. As her gaze shifted coldly toward Boss Niu's two subordinates, Mu Juling reminded Zhao Mu that she had told him long ago, when facing an enemy, merely retaliating was never enough. One had to uproot everything completely to truly put an end to it. Hearing this, the two subordinates of Boss Niu immediately flew into a rage and shouted back at Mu Juling. They mocked her words as arrogant nonsense and openly questioned who she even thought she was. With sneers on their faces, they even asked whether she knew who their boss was. At that moment, Mu Juling's eyes suddenly changed, glowing with a terrifying red light. With unwavering confidence, she introduced herself as Mu Juling and coldly asked whether they had a problem with her. The overwhelming pressure that erupted from her caused the two subordinates to tremble in fear. They exchanged glances, repeatedly murmuring her name as terror filled their faces. Once they finally realized who she was, they immediately turned and fled. Recognizing her as a senior sister from the inner sect, they hurriedly urged each other to escape and prayed that Mu Juling would not remember their faces. As they ran, one of them shouted that they were only following Boss Niu's orders and had nothing to do with the incident. Mu Juling clicked her tongue in annoyance as she watched them disappear, coldly mocking them as a bunch of cowards. She then turned her attention back to Zhao Mu and pointed at him. Startled, Zhao Mu asked what he had done wrong. Instead of answering, Mu Juling suddenly grabbed his arm and pulled him into her embrace, pressing him tightly against her chest. Her cheeks flushed red as she asked if he had already forgotten. If anything dangerous were to happen, all he needed to do was mention her name. Zhao Mu was left speechless by what he heard. Mu Juling added that it was fortunate she had been there, because if Zhao Mu had died, she would have no one left to marry. Zhao Mu forced a smile as sweat trickled down his face. In his thoughts, he recalled that ever since he had first entered the sect, this woman had been quietly watching him. She was not after his pure yang power. Instead, he confidently believed the real reason was his looks and appearance. Mu Juling of the Saint Yuan Demon Sect clearly possessed a side of her personality that others never expected. Zhao Mu pinched Mu Juling's cheek and agreed with her. Calmly, he said that he was not as easy to kill as others thought. Mu Juling smiled and replied that her future husband could not be allowed to face any danger. With a smile, she beckoned Zhao Mu to follow her. The two of them ran through the bustling streets, and moments later, they soared into the sky, enveloped in a radiant red aura emanating from Mu Juling. As they flew, Zhao Mu squinted one eye, thinking that flying freely through the air without a flying sword was an ability only core formation cultivators possessed. He could not help but wonder just how high Mu Juling's cultivation truly was. After a short while, they arrived at their destination and gently landed, leaving streaks of red energy lingering in the sky. Under the glowing moonlight, Zhao Mu noticed golden energy flowing all around them. He felt an incredibly dense spiritual aura and wondered whether this was the sacred core land of the Saint Yuan Demon Sect. His thoughts were interrupted when Mu Juling invited him inside, saying that this was her residence. As Zhao Mu looked around, he wondered if this was the dwelling of a personal disciple. Inside, he examined the surroundings and asked whether she truly lived there. Mu Juling explained that she only came occasionally when she had free time to read and rest, and that she rarely stayed there for long. She suddenly leapt onto the bed and lay down happily. In a gentle tone, she asked Zhao Mu why he was still standing there as if dazed and ordered him to come over immediately. Zhao Mu warned her not to test him, as his self-control was limited. Mu Juling scolded him, calling him a womanizer and rebuking the chaotic thoughts in his head. Without warning, Mu Juling tossed two books toward him. Zhao Mu immediately recognized them, the true chapter of sword control and the One Qi Mystic Hearth sword art. He could not help but wonder how she knew he wanted to cultivate sword control. Smiling, Mu Juling explained that she knew Zhao Mu had recently broken through to the foundation establishment stage and had purchased a flying sword, making his intention obvious. She added that she would also give him a flying sword. Tossing a container to Zhao Mu, she explained that the sword was a 4th-grade weapon with a cold attribute called Frost Foil. According to her, it was best suited to suppress the pure yang fire within Zhao Mu's body and could also help keep his mind free from improper thoughts. Zhao Mu forced a smile and admitted that Mu Juling was indeed very considerate. She suddenly stood up and told him to stay there for a few days to cultivate sword control, leaving the rest to her. As she walked out, she added that since Zhao Mu had already surpassed the foundation establishment stage, he no longer needed to remain a servant disciple, and someone would assist in upgrading his disciple token to the outer sect. Hearing this, Zhao Mu seriously asked who she really was. Before closing the door, Mu Juling smiled and said that she was the person he would marry in the near future. With that, she slammed the door shut. Only then did Zhao Mu realize that Mu Juling was truly a master at flirting. He pushed aside his wandering thoughts and decided that focusing on cultivating sword control was far more important. Sitting down, he began his cultivation using the flying sword, wrapping it in radiant golden energy in his hands. Pages from the book fluttered into the air, the words lingering and glowing in golden light. However, moments later, he suddenly collapsed onto the floor, gasping heavily for breath. He wondered whether the marrow cleansing pill had failed to improve his innate talent. He also questioned why sword control remained so difficult to grasp. Rising to his feet, he doubted whether the pill only affected the physical body and not the depth of comprehension. Even with a system, if his comprehension was weak, he felt he would ultimately fail. At that moment, a small white beast resembling a tiny bear suddenly appeared before him. The two stared at each other before Zhao Mu approached and spoke to it seriously. He thought that if primordial yang could be considered a form of giving, then perhaps comprehension could also serve as a source for system returns. A sinister grin spread across his face as he looked at the trembling little bear and remarked that it seemed bored. An idea came to him. He would teach it the multiplication table. Pressing his mouth close to the beast's ear, he recited the words one by one. Moments later, a notification appeared. Knowledge had been transferred to the demon beast, triggering a 100-fold return. The system immediately confirmed a massive increase in the host's comprehension, causing Zhao Mu's eyes to widen in shock. His idea had truly worked. After his comprehension rose, the protagonist immediately entered cultivation. He sat quietly with his back straight and slowly closed his eyes. The air around him seemed to stir, and moments later, glowing pages began to float into the air, pages bathed in brilliant golden light. From them emerged shimmering characters, twisting and circling like living symbols of knowledge as they gently flowed into his consciousness. After some time, he opened his eyes. A faint smile appeared on his face. His sword rose into the air on its own, wrapped in pure, powerful golden energy that flowed directly from his hand. In a low voice, he muttered that the result wasn't bad at all. The kung fu that had once been overlooked, treated as nothing more than an ordinary technique, now unfolded effortlessly before him. He no longer needed repeated practice or deep contemplation. Its principles and flow entered his mind naturally, as if they had always belonged there. He could clearly feel the leap in his comprehension. Yet despite this improvement, he quickly realized a harsh truth. Even with this level of understanding, it still wasn't enough in this world. He paused in thought. As a transmigrator, his aptitude was still lacking. This world was too cruel, its standards too high, to rely on talent at this level alone. Suddenly, his gaze shifted to the demon beast in front of him. A new idea sparked in his eyes. He walked over, picked it up with a smile, and spoke. Seeing how eager it was to learn, he said that as its teacher, he would instruct it in a new subject, something called geometry theorems. He began teaching the demon beast immediately. At the same time, a system notification appeared. Because he had taught knowledge related to calculus, a 100-fold return was triggered. His comprehension surged dramatically. It felt as if invisible walls in his mind were collapsing all at once, expanding his understanding in every direction. Then another message appeared. His current comprehension had reached the upper limit of his present strength stage. It could not increase further. Only then did he truly understand. Comprehension had a ceiling. At this level of understanding, comprehending his existing cultivation methods was no longer a problem. One by one, he tested them. First, Vajra Fist. His fist shone with a dazzling golden aura. Next, Wind Red Thunder Art, crimson lightning cascading downward and releasing a terrifying presence that made the demon beast tremble. Finally, 3 Talents 6 Fates Divination Art. A red symbol appeared in his palm, while a massive golden sigil manifested behind him, deepening the demon beast's fear. Yet he quickly realized something else. All of these were unrated yellow rank techniques, too crude for him at his current level. Still, he had already mastered them completely. Once outside, he could write them down and share them with others, farming massive return rewards. Suddenly, the demon beast showed interest. It approached him with a bone clenched in its mouth, offering it to him. Slightly surprised, Zhao Mu accepted it gratefully and said he would make soup with it later. But at that moment, the bone released a purple aura. He immediately realized what it was. Chaos Xuanming Art. He smiled and sat down. He hadn't expected such a small demon beast to gift him a technique. The system detected it instantly and began the learning process automatically. However, when Zhao Mu tried to comprehend it, a sharp pain exploded in his head. Purple aura surrounded him as he spat out a mouthful of blood. His breathing became labored as he stared at the bone. Cursing under his breath, he realized that even with comprehension at the limit of the Foundation establishment realm, he still couldn't understand it. That led him to a realization. Could this be an Earth rank technique? Or perhaps, even Heaven rank? While he was struggling, a voice called out from the doorway. Mu Juling had arrived. Seeing Zhao Mu's condition, she immediately asked what had happened. In her heart, she blamed herself, thinking she had given him a technique that was far too difficult. Zhao Mu quickly denied it, but Mu Juling stopped him. She said cultivation should never be rushed. She brought food and insisted they eat first. She personally fed him, her movements gentle and her gaze captivating, urging him to eat more as she placed each bite into his mouth. As this happened, a thought crossed Zhao Mu's mind. If Mu Juling was here, then did that mean? He cut off the thought. Taking advantage of the moment, he handed her the Chaos Xuanming art, saying she might be able to make better use of it. Mu Juling was shocked when she saw it and asked where he got it. Zhao Mu explained that a small demon beast had given it to him, but it was simply too profound for him to comprehend. At that moment, the system activated again. Because he had gifted an Earth rank technique, a 60-fold return was triggered. The reward appeared instantly, an Earth rank high-grade technique, pure Yang Xuanming art. A scroll materialized before him, glowing with intense golden light. But it didn't stop there. The system detected that the technique was compatible with his red Yang sacred body and asked whether he wanted immediate empowerment. He agreed without hesitation. He then ended the conversation. He didn't know how long the empowerment would take, and he couldn't let Mu Juling grow suspicious. Moments later, Mu Juling suddenly shouted in anger. She complained that her technique had been stolen again, and that Zhao Mu had nearly died because of it. Confused, he asked what she meant. Mu Juling explained that it was a good thing he hadn't forced cultivation. With his pure Yang constitution and the chaos attribute of the Chaos Xuanming art, the two clashed violently. If he had persisted, his meridians could have exploded, killing him on the spot. Only then did Zhao Mu fully understand. The problem wasn't his comprehension. It was incompatibility with his constitution. Mu Juling went on to explain that his constitution was extremely rare, and only a handful of techniques could suit him. Gathering them would take time. For now, it was better for him to cultivate basic introductory techniques and accumulate experience. Despite everything, Zhao Mu couldn't help but ask. Why was Mu Juling treating him so well? What was she really planning? Instead of avoiding the question, Mu Juling answered directly. With a seductive voice and graceful movements, she said she had already surrendered to him. She wanted Zhao Mu to become her Dao companion. If that happened, she promised that within the Saint Yuan Demon Sect, he would never lack fine food, fine wine, and no one would dare harm him. Zhao Mu was left speechless. Then, the atmosphere changed abruptly. A voice shouted, "Nonsense!" A terrifying aura swept through the area. In an instant, the house was shattered by overwhelming purple energy. Mu Juling immediately worried about Zhao Mu, who nearly collapsed under the crushing pressure. When Zhao Mu looked up, he saw a woman floating in the air. Who was this person, possessing such a terrifying presence? Beside him, Mu Juling asked in shock why her master had come. Only then did Zhao Mu understand. This woman was Mu Juling's master. In a heavy, chilling voice, the woman asked what they were doing, and whether her arrival had ruined a perfectly good moment. Mu Juling bowed deeply before her master, her posture respectful and restrained. In a calm yet heavy voice, she replied that her disciple would never dare to act out of line. Her master spoke slowly. She said that Mu Juling was the most important disciple she had, the one she had personally groomed to inherit her position as the saintess of the sect. As she spoke, she descended gently to the ground, and with her landing came an overwhelming surge of purple energy that flooded the surroundings. She ordered Mu Juling to take a good look at herself. Not only had she failed to cultivate properly, she had even hidden a servant disciple inside her residence, to flirt and indulge in pleasure. As the saintess's purple aura spread outward, Zhao Mu finally understood. No wonder the woman before them possessed such terrifying presence and authority. She was the saintess herself. Mu Juling's master. Without hesitation, Mu Juling dropped to her knees. Her body trembled as she begged for forgiveness, openly admitting her mistake. In response, the saintess's aura flared even more violently. With a flick of her hand, a sword appeared, and she spoke coldly. Since Mu Juling knew she was wrong, she would be given one chance. The saintess slammed the sword into the ground between them. The sound alone sent fear through their hearts. In an icy tone, she commanded Mu Juling to kill the servant disciple with her own hands, to sever the root of her emotions. After that, she would return to Purple Cloud Peak and enter closed-door cultivation for 30 years. Overcome with fear, Mu Juling rushed forward and tightly hugged her master's leg. On the verge of tears, she pleaded desperately, saying that Zhao Mu had nothing to do with this. If she killed him, it would damage her Dao heart, and she feared her cultivation would come to a complete halt. The saintess stared down at her coldly. Her eyes were empty of emotion as she asked, quietly yet dangerously, whether Mu Juling was challenging her authority. In the next instant, an even more terrifying aura erupted from her body. The ground shook violently, the surroundings trembled, and everything seemed to lift into the air. Under that crushing pressure, both Mu Juling and Zhao Mu felt their bodies quake. At that moment, Zhao Mu wondered, would the saintess truly kill her own disciple? He didn't hesitate. Stepping forward, Zhao Mu released radiant golden energy from his body. When he reached Mu Juling, she turned to him, her eyes filled with fear and uncertainty. But Zhao Mu showed no doubt. He pulled her into a firm embrace and urged her to draw upon his spiritual power. The saintess immediately noticed something unusual. This was no ordinary pure yang body. If she wasn't mistaken, Zhao Mu had awakened the red yang sacred body. Zhao Mu acknowledged her sharp perception. The golden energy flowing through him surged outward, strengthening them both as he supported Mu Juling. The saintess fell silent in thought. She knew how rare the red yang sacred body was, how terrifying such a constitution could be. The man Mu Juling had chosen truly possessed extraordinary potential. In the tense silence, Mu Juling suddenly joked that if she had known Zhao Mu possessed the red yang sacred body earlier, she would have tied him up and taken advantage of him long ago. The saintess cleared her throat loudly. Startled, both of them bowed immediately. Mu Juling hurriedly apologized, saying she had spoken without thinking. Zhao Mu laughed lightly and added that it was just nonsense. In the end, the saintess said she would let the matter go. For Mu Juling's sake, she would spare Zhao Mu for now. She ordered him to return to the outer sect and continue cultivating. Until he reached the nascent soul realm, he was strictly forbidden from approaching Mu Juling again. Wrapped in purple energy, Mu Juling was lifted into the air by the saintess. Zhao Mu could only watch as they disappeared from sight. He rubbed his head, still shaken by the saintess's terrifying power. If she had wanted him dead, a single thought would have been enough. One truth was now clear to him. He needed to become much stronger. Back at the servant quarters, Zhao Mu entered his home. Despite the danger he had faced, he had gained an Earth-rank high-grade cultivation technique and a 4th-grade flying sword. He immediately instructed the system to begin empowerment, and it confirmed the process. As he sat down to cultivate, fierce flames suddenly erupted, illuminating his entire body. He was shocked by how fast his cultivation progressed. He suspected it was the combined effect of the pure Yang Xuanming art and the red Yang sacred body. Soon, the system notified him that the ambient spiritual energy was insufficient and that it would automatically absorb energy instead. After he agreed, countless spirit stones appeared around him. One by one, they floated into the air, dissolved, and transformed into pure spiritual energy that surged around him. A satisfied smile appeared on his face as the aura continued to flow. From outside his residence, a golden glow was clearly visible. After several hours, the energy finally settled. When Zhao Mu checked his surroundings, he realized he had consumed 70,000 spirit stones in a single night. Still, breaking through to the 3rd layer of the Foundation establishment realm in such a short time was more than acceptable. Stepping outside, he yawned and stretched, thinking it was time to find a way to earn money. Suddenly, several figures blocked his path, calling his name while laughing mockingly. At their center stood Hu Chang, a servant disciple at the 8th layer of Qi refining. With a grin, he said he had heard that senior sister Chu had given Zhao Mu many benefits, and asked whether he planned to show some gratitude to his fellow brothers. Hu Chang was notorious in the servant quarters, a bully who relied on his cultivation to oppress both men and women. Once, a new servant disciple talked back to him and was beaten to death that same night. Zhao Mu smiled calmly and called Hu Chang a beast to his face. He said Hu Chang had been stealing from others for years and must have accumulated plenty of spirit stones by now. Enraged, Hu Chang charged forward. His hand transformed into a tiger-like claw as red aura wrapped around his body. But before the attack could land, Zhao Mu casually dodged it. In a cold voice, Zhao Mu said it was far too slow, mocking him for thinking such an attack could win. Before Hu Chang could react, a heavy punch slammed into his face. Hu Chang was sent flying back into his companions, blood spraying as he coughed violently. As his companions rushed to check on him, Hu Chang stared in disbelief. He demanded to know if that really was Zhao Mu, and whether he had truly broken into the Foundation establishment realm. Zhao Mu grinned. A blazing red aura burst from his body. His answer was simple. Isn't it obvious? Hu Chang slowly forced himself to his feet, one hand tightly clutching his blood-soaked face. Blood continued to drip between his fingers as he roared in fury at his companions, shouting for them to stop standing around and watching. He ordered them to attack together. The two men responded immediately. Flaming energy erupted from their bodies, their eyes glowing a fierce crimson. With loud shouts, they charged straight toward Zhao Mu, clearly intending to beat him down without mercy. Their heavy punches flew at the same time. Zhao Mu stepped back calmly, narrowly avoiding both attacks with ease. Those watching from nearby were stunned. No one could believe that junior brother Zhao Mu had already broken through to the Foundation establishment realm. Yet along with their shock came concern. He had only just advanced, and facing multiple Qi refining stage opponents at once was still extremely dangerous. Senior brother Wang Chan was also present and immediately warned Zhao Mu to be careful. At that moment, Zhao Mu took in a deep breath. A red glow slowly gathered between his fingers. With a sharp flick of his hand, the energy exploded outward. The two muscular men were blasted backward, sent flying through the air as Zhao Mu coldly ordered them to get lost. He let out a steady breath and glanced at his own fist. Suddenly, Hu Chang leapt forward. In the blink of an eye, Hu Chang's body transformed, his figure expanding and twisting into the shape of a ferocious tiger. Rage burned in his eyes as he cursed Zhao Mu, screaming that he would kill him. Before the attack could fully land, Zhao Mu turned his head slightly, a faint smile forming on his lips. Crimson energy surged into his fist once more, and he threw a devastating punch. Hu Chang was sent flying, spinning through the air with blood spraying from his face, before crashing straight into one of his fallen companions. The man let out a scream of pain as they collided. Hu Chang struggled to rise, snarling as he warned Zhao Mu not to get complacent. But before he could act again, Zhao Mu appeared behind him without warning. His leg, wrapped in red energy, lashed out in a powerful kick. The energy detonated on impact. Blood splattered as Zhao Mu coldly ordered Hu Chang to shut up. The surrounding crowd erupted. Cheers and applause thundered through the area as people shouted in praise. Zhao Mu had vented the anger they had been forced to swallow for far too long. These tiger demons were notorious bullies. No one had expected them to finally crash into an iron wall. Zhao Mu raised a hand, signaling everyone to quiet down. He asked for a moment. Then, using his energy, he extracted the spirit stones one by one from Hu Chang's body. He stated clearly that these stones had been stolen over time, and today, he was returning them to their rightful owners. The atmosphere instantly changed. Shock mixed with excitement as Zhao Mu tossed the spirit stones back into the crowd. People scrambled to catch them, voices rising in loud cheers. Long live Zhao Mu. At the same time, a notification appeared in his mind. He had given away 9,000 spirit stones, triggering a 1,000-fold return, and received 9 million spirit stones in return. Zhao Mu smiled quietly. With this amount, he wouldn't have to worry about running out of spirit stones for a long time. After that, he walked over to senior brother Wang Chan and sincerely thanked him. Ever since Zhao Mu entered the sect, Wang Chan had been the one guiding and helping him. Because of that, Zhao Mu took out a Qi refining pill and offered it to him. Wang Chan recognized it immediately and refused, saying it was far too valuable. Before he could say anything else, Zhao Mu directly stuffed the pill into his mouth, telling him to stop refusing and just swallow it. Wang Chan nearly choked in shock. Another notification appeared. He had given a first-grade Qi refining pill, triggering a 100-fold return, and obtained a second-grade foundation establishment pill. After coughing violently, Wang Chan looked at Zhao Mu differently. However, his expression quickly turned serious. He warned Zhao Mu that the forces backing Hu Cheng and Niu Tai were not small. It would be best for Zhao Mu to enter the outer sect as soon as possible and find reliable support. As chaos continued around them due to the spirit stones, Zhao Mu realized that this had already been his plan. Several hours later, inside the outer sect management hall, a man was refining pills over a massive cauldron, chanting incomprehensible words. He was the outer sect manager, Zhang Dingkun. Zhao Mu stepped inside and politely introduced himself as a disciple. Zhang Dingkun glanced at him coldly, then casually flicked his finger toward the flame. A burst of pressure disrupted the refinement process. Smoke filled the hall. Zhang Dingkun immediately flew into a rage, accusing Zhao Mu of breaking his concentration and ruining the refinement. He ordered Zhao Mu to leave at once. Zhao Mu froze, pointing at himself in confusion. In his mind, it was obvious this had been deliberate. Judging from the temperature alone, Zhang Dingkun hadn't been refining a purple qi pill at all. Zhao Mu couldn't help but wonder who was trying to make things difficult for him. Zhang Dingkun sat back down impatiently and demanded to know why Zhao Mu was still there, saying he didn't want to see his face. Zhao Mu smiled politely and told him not to worry. He calmly took out 50,000 spirit stones and offered them forward. Zhang Dingkun nearly choked, but immediately grabbed them, forcing a laugh. He said Zhao Mu must be there to process his outer sect disciple nameplate, and that he would handle it right away. Zhao Mu thanked him. Then, casually, Zhao Mu asked who was blocking his promotion to outer sect disciple. Zhang Dingkun turned his back and replied that he only accepted payment to solve problems, he didn't sell information. Zhao Mu chuckled softly and produced even more spirit stones, asking if this amount was enough. Zhang Dingkun paused, then accepted them and gestured for Zhao Mu to come closer. Without speaking, Zhang Dingkun used small stones to shape the outline of an animal. Zhao Mu immediately understood. Chu Zhaoran. Chu Zhaoran held a high position within the outer sect, with eyes and ears everywhere. If Zhao Mu stayed too long, he would inevitably be noticed. Zhang Dingkun turned away and said he hadn't mentioned anything. Zhao Mu understood the silent warning and thanked him. After leaving, Zhao Mu mounted his flying sword and departed. In his mind, he decided to seek out Lu Qi and temporarily hide at his place. When he arrived at the hidden palaces deep within the mountains, the very place Lu Qi had shown him before, he saw two men stepping out of the residence. They were from the Saint Yuan Demon Sect. One was the heavenly pride of the 5th rank, Long Tianxiang. The other was one of the 12 elders, Lu Haikong. The chapter ends here. Watch out for our upcoming uploads. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you'll always be updated on our future videos.